Hey everyone, welcome back to the Corridor Cast. Today at the table we are joined by Niko, Clinton Jones, and Daniel D. Kim from the Node channel, so thanks to him for being here as well. And we wanted to do something a little bit different today. Most of the time when it's just the guys on the table here, we like to talk about things in the news, world events, things that are going on, and sort of just have fun and give our take and our input on it. But today we wanted to do something a little bit more personal. You see, each time before we do one of these episodes, I'll go in and I'll scroll through all the current events that are happening and I'll track them sort of throughout the week leading up to when we record. And I was just a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of negative and deconstructive things that are going on in the world right now. And I wanted to take this podcast and say, instead of talking about that stuff, let's just get away from it for an hour and let's just have some fun and let's just tell some personal stories and get to know each other a little bit better. And so that's exactly what we did here today, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you'd like to see more like this, definitely let us know. We'll definitely be doing all kinds of different formats here as time goes by, and yeah, enjoy. I also wanted to let you know that today's sponsor is Storyblocks. Once again, they are our flagship sponsor so far, and they've been awesome. So I'll tell you guys more about that and why they're your one-stop shop for all your stock video needs later in the episode. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Corridor Cast. We're so glad you're here.
All right, so for those of you who aren't in the know, which is actually most people, because I tend not to get too much of my personal life out on the internet, I'm having a baby next week. Well, I'm not having the baby. My wife is having the baby.
Don't take all the credit.
Yes. And, you know, usually it's a decision to have a baby. Sometimes it's an accident, but in this case it was a decision. And, you know, I was reflecting a little bit upon the things that led me to have the decision to decide to try to have a kid. You know, because like I'd come home and I'd go through my routine. You know, I'd play my drums, play some video games, do my thing and hang out with friends. And like after doing that for a couple of years, I started to kind of, well, there's two things that kind of happen when you hit your 30s. One is the possibilities and potential of the world starts to crystallize for you in the sense that, you know, when you're 18 years old, you could be anything. You might pull it off. You might be a race car driver. You might be an astronaut. You might be a filmmaker. You know, you never quite know what's going to happen, and anything is possible. Once you hit 30, and I'm 33, what you are going to be is starting to solidify, if it hasn't already. I mean, things can still change, but you're definitely starting to move past some eras in your life, and you start seeking a sense of, you know, where does your fulfillment lie? And so I was kind of thinking back to like where I was in high school and like what I thought was important in life. You know, what did I want to do? And you know, today we're joined by D as well.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? What's up, guys?
Sam's out in Minnesota on vacation. Ren is out in Oregon. On vacation. Oregoni.
That's people. You can tell if someone's not from Oregon if they call it Oregon.
Yep. And so I kind of wanted to ask you guys, you know, like looking back at your time in high school, what was important to you? Like, what did you see yourself wanting in life to be happy? And now that you are effectively twice the age, not quite twice the age, that you were in high school, you're looking back, look back at those things that you thought would make you happy. And do you find that that's still true? Like, did your perspective you have on life in high school like hold throughout all these years? Because a lot of those things are the things that motivate you to even get where you're going. Like, I wanted to get into filmmaking when I was in high school. Guess what? Here I am. You know, yeah. I still like doing it.
Right. Mm-hmm. I by and large, I'd say only about half of what I thought in high school was true in that sense.
What was important to you in high school?
And what I thought, well, see, I really thought that, and this is interesting because the guy that was recently on Joe Rogan, that Eric Weinstein guy who's like a mathematician, was talking about this. And he's talking about how there's all these portals in life that introduce us to worlds of the unknown and stuff like that. And I was obsessed with that stuff in high school. Like I was all about portals in the sense of like philosophies, unique things in mathematics and in logic and in science that hint at, you know, the the other dimensions of the world and of the universe.
Like figurative dimensions,
wait,
right?
so
No,
by
like
dimensions,
figurative,
you mean like
philosophical, mathematical.
you mean like opportunities, or you mean literal dimensions?
Like literal dimensions, things that affect our. Obviously, there's more than one dimension, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's I think pretty well accepted. But when interdimensional portals is the stuff that he kept talking about, and you can see these things in certain types of logic and in certain types of mathematics, and I was obsessed with finding those things when I was younger. I was obsessed with like understanding what like the best philosophy was, and what the best religion was, and like what the best things that told you about God and told you about truth and told you about the universe were. And that was very good at that time. But as I got older, the more that I learned about those things, the more I like it's a catch-22, because the more you learn about those things, the more you realize you know nothing about those things. And so at the time, I thought there's a hard truth to all this. There's something at the end of the tunnel that will tell me about truth and all of that stuff. And the more that I studied that and thought about it and looked for it, the more that I realized that that's not true. The more that I realized that you need to come to that on your own as an individual, and that there is truth. I fully believe that, but that there is it is your truth, and that relates to other people, but it is relative in that sense. Like,
You know what that makes me think? That sounds like the origin place of FOMO.
the fear of missing out.
Yeah, just like needing to know like what is the best.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
with the internet we have a lot more access to, it's like, what's the best toothbrush? Well, I can look it up what the
That's
best
true.
toothbrush
Google
is.
it.
And back then, yeah, I did the same thing. You spend a lot of time thinking like
Yeah.
to make sure you don't, especially with religion when you're younger.
Right.
So yeah, I hear you on that for sure.
It's very formative, and I was glad to have done it, and I am more settled now in sort of like what I believe and like who I am and all that stuff. But yeah,
I think
that's certainly changed.
there's maybe, and I don't mean this in like a negative sense, but like a sense of arrogance that comes into looking for the best way of doing something and the best way of like finding that truth. Because I think another thing that happens as you get older is you start to realize that it doesn't really matter all that much to the rest of the world what you've discovered. Like,
It matters to yourself.
It matters to yourself,
Yeah.
of course. But, even then at a certain point, like, to what extent does that even matter to yourself? Like, because there's an ending point to where you're going. And if it's not going to carry on past that, does it matter so much if you have a different perspective? But I think in the bigger picture is like, it doesn't necessarily help the world explicitly for you to find a better religion for yourself, per se.
Yeah, I think the idea is just that you don't want to question your choices when you get older. You don't want to
Yeah.
feel like, what if I did this or what if I did that? I think it's more of an idea of just like, it doesn't really affect the world, I agree, but I think just being an old man and not living with a ton of regret or like, questions like, what if I live my life this way? I think that's like, for me personally, that's the most important thing. Is like, that's why I want to try so many different things and, try to be a good person, like at least that. And,
Yeah, that was the motivating force for me too. Is I wanted to make sure I didn't want to have regrets about that stuff when I got older. So I spent a lot of time thinking about it when I was younger. I was glad I did. It helped form me who I am. And I don't mean to say like there's no truth or people can believe whatever they want, because there certainly is a reality to the universe. And I think it does affect the world in the sense that if you discover who you are as a person yourself, you also can then turn around and more benefit and offer more benefit to the world around you.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I guess I could see that. I feel like just the sense of what is important changes over time. Both to yourself and to what's around you and what the world needs around you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a lot deeper of an answer than I thought we were going to be giving.
We're just going deep right
Yeah,
away.
that was
guys.
like immediately like multi-dimensional.
Yeah, I thought Abercrombie and Fitch was like important.
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't. Like,
turns out Hollister is more important. Yeah, and then you're going straight into multi-dimensions. Like, that's interesting. That is interesting.
So it was a two-part, right? It was a two-part.
Yeah.
You said, where did you see yourself when you were in high school?
mhm.
Like where you are now, like does it line up? Or
The
did
reality-
did you want to do something else? Did you want to be something else? Like,
Your potential has crystallized by this point to a certain extent. You know, do you feel locked in, like, and you don't want to be here, or the path that you set yourself on, like, are you happy with where you've ended up? And does, like, you know, what I thought would make me happy back in high school, here I am now having implemented all those things. I'm speaking figuratively for like all of us here. Like, do you feel like that was the case? Like, did you pursue what you thought would make you happy back then, and did it work out?
are you asking me this or are you asking the table?
Yeah,
I'm
Clint.
asking you.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to, well, dude, for the longest time, I wanted to be in the Marines, and I signed up for the Marines, and right at the last minute, I bailed because I knew that I wanted to like be a creative, and I mean, I was since I was 3, I was drawing stuff and creating stuff and coloring and all that good stuff.
Why'd you bail?
Because I wanted to pursue film. I wanted to make a movie. I wanted to make shorts. I wanted to do VFX. Like, I wanted to be more creative
Let me
than
ask
like.
you a question, because I'm asking you because I asked myself the same question because of a very similar situation. Did you bail because you realized that you were joining the military for the wrong reason? Because that's why I bailed.
Yeah, there was some thought on that because like it wasn't the thing where it was like join the military because I have no other choice. Like, because I was like,
Mhm.
might as well, I'm bored. Like, it wasn't one of those situations.
No, there's other reasons why. Because
I'm
But-
curious what your reason was too when Clint stopped.
yeah.
So I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, I grew up around friends whose dads were in the Marines, and like we dressed up in camo and ran around the neighborhood and hid from
Yeah, it's
cars.
appealing when you're young.
I walked around the neighborhood with a log strapped around my back and pretended it was a bazooka.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Dude, yeah, like all that stuff, man. Like, we built on one of my birthdays, we built like a camo tent. We woke up at 6 a.m, me and my friend Nick, and we built this like camo tent outside, and it was like as the sun was coming up, and we just like I literally built binoculars out of 2 toilet paper rolls. It was like looking at cars like passing by and just like on watch in my neighborhood, and I was like,
Yeah, it's fun to be a
It's so
soldier when you
hilarious.
can go back in your bed at night and
play
Yeah.
do
play
whatever
Mega
you want
Man
the next
and-
day.
yeah.
Yeah, play your PlayStation.
Clint killed his first man when he was 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, I don't know. I was like, well, no, like I'm having so much fun making shorts, and being creative, you know. But I still have that urge to like want to serve, you know. Like, I want to do something. Like, I always go back to like, what am I even doing? Making videos, like, how is this helping the greater cause of everything? And like, you're like, oh, people are sad. You can make them happy with your videos. Yeah, I guess. But like, I also wanted to be a fireman too. Like,
Yeah.
I really want to like, I don't know, like, I love a challenge. Like, that's what I love, is a
That's
challenge.
the creator's challenge for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said, Dee, about the people playing soldier. I feel like there's a lot of that going around, man.
Oh
Yeah.
Like a lot of people waking up going, "Hey, the world should be like this," and then just getting feisty about it. But then, as soon as they get hungry or they get tired or whatever,
Or their Wi-Fi doesn't work.
yeah, they go back to whatever the heck it is they were doing before.
Mhm.
And that's kind of I was kind of like that. That's when I was discovering who I was back in the day. Like, I was kind of like, the world should be like this and we should all do this, and I had all these philosophies on how that should be. But I was exactly that. I got to go back every day and sleep in a bed and go to this really nice education and do all this stuff that was
Yes, no
ultimately
risk.
it was ultimately a privilege of the world that I thought could be better.
Yeah, I mean, generally the best things in the world come with the most risk. Generally,
Yeah.
like falling in love, serving in the military, having those like great experiences, but at the same time you risk your life. it's like a really good video game. Like the best video games are the ones that require commitment and time you put into it. And the more time and commitment you put into it, the more you get out of it. At least that's how I feel, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm gonna jump in this arcade shooter and kill a couple people and die. Well, I'm gonna forget about that round in 3 seconds.
Are you taking a dig at Smash Brothers?
No, I'm taking a dig at just first shooters in general.
Yeah.
Compared to like battle royale games or like DayZ, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It just in terms of like the more commitment you put into it, obviously the more invested you're gonna be in that experience. So, yeah.
You said you were potentially going to join the military. What branch were you looking at? Then why'd you end up backing out?
Well, wait. So were you done with your story? I don't want to start until you're done, because you just talked about how like you wanted to be a soldier and then you didn't, and then you talked about your like binoculars and stuff. So like, did it
Great
line
summary.
up? Like, what did you said you want to do that? You left for right at the very end before you were supposed to join. Like now that you're your age now and you look back when you were a kid, I'm sure you're pretty similar to me when I was a kid.
We're like the same person. We're like
the same person, except for I'm Korean.
We know
you're
this. Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Do you think are you happy with how things are?
100%.
Or how things you
100%. Yeah, 100%. Like
Yeah.
I am very, very happy creating awesome stuff with awesome people. And learning so much and having the ability to learn so much and like, you know, yeah, but I mean, I'm still learning it. Like that is my thing. I always want to learn.
Yeah.
Always want to learn and be challenged like forever.
Same, because there's always that idea that, you know, you took one path in your life, which is funny that you mentioned the whole multidimensional thing, because I always wonder, you know, if I had taken a different path in my life, what I could have been and what I could have done. And to answer your question, Niko, when I was really young, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. When I was very young.
Me too.
Yeah, I know.
Legit, like 100%.
Same person. I want to be a fighter pilot more than anything when I was a little kid.
Oh my God.
And then I realized as I got older, I like looked into how difficult it is to be a fighter pilot, and also just not only how difficult the training is, like how selective it is, and also just I wanted to be a fighter pilot for the wrong reason. It's because I wanted to be a badass, I wanted to be looked up to, and I wanted to pilot this awesome jet and get into dogfights. That doesn't happen.
Wait, what's wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that doesn't happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's not a realistic thing a fighter pilot does.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm glamorizing it, and it's not really that. So then I moved on, and I wanted to be an FBI agent because my cousin was applying for FBI when I was younger, and I like would watch him do his training and stuff, and he would teach me, and he would take me shooting and all that stuff like that. So I really looked up to my cousin a lot. He was like my hero when I was a young kid. He's the reason I grew my hair out longer. It's because he had longer hair.
Your hair was super long, wasn't it?
Well, he had hair that was like down to his chin. This was like 90s, so it was like really in style then.
Sure.
But, you know, I looked up to him a lot, and I looked into what it takes to be FBI. And that led to me realizing that if you want to be FBI, the most realistic is you're a cop, and then you possibly make detective, or you have an ex-military background. Those are the main routes you have to take to become FBI. And then I was like, okay, well, if I want to do that, my best route is to become military. So then I wanted to be Ranger. I really wanted to be a Special Forces. So I would apply for Marines and then go from Marine to Ranger. And that was my goal when I was a kid. So I would train and like read up on like the Ranger handbook and how to like use guns and all that. And I would do all this sort of training when I was really young, like middle school-ish around then. And then eventually I realized like to be a Ranger, because I had friends who were ex-military and like my friends' older brothers and like parents were, you learn that kind of job, the kind of commitment it takes to be Special Forces, while it is like glamorous as you're a kid, it's like a career job. It's a life career job. Like you can't be Special Forces and then like dabble in these
Can't
other
be half
things.
special forces.
You can't be a half special boy. You have to be full Special Forces. And I was like, do I want to commit my entire life, do like 4 years of service to not even possibly make Special Forces, possibly die along the way, and would I be happy with that? And I ended up not doing it because I just felt like I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I felt like it wasn't because I really, really wanted to serve. It was more I was doing it as a route to get me to where I wanted to be, which is like either like a detective or FBI agent or something like that. So, that was my original goal, which is why I was like so obsessed with, police and guns and stuff. Also, like when I was a very young kid, the first person who ever taught me to shoot a gun in elementary school was a guy who went to my church at the time, and he was a sheriff. And I really looked up to him because he was like a really cool guy. I was just in Georgia, and he taught me how to shoot. He taught me how to clean a Glock, and he's the first person to let me hold an M16. And I had a lot of respect for him. So I really wanted to be a cop / detective when I grew up. Didn't really happen. But back to your multidimensional thing, I always thought, what if I did pursue that? What if I did pursue being a cop and then I eventually made detective and I worked homicide and I ended up catching some serial killer or some pedophile or something, and due to that, these other people didn't get hurt or killed. And I think about that a lot. And I'm like, I'm sitting here making internet videos and playing video games, which is fun and all, but I feel like I could possibly have had a much bigger impact, or at least more meaningful in different ways. And I wonder about that. Yeah.
Yeah, before I went off to college, my grandma pulled me aside and she was like, so you have an education and, you're fairly bright. Why aren't you becoming like a doctor? And she didn't mean that in like the generic, like, why aren't you a doctor? But like, like, why didn't you do that?
You mean
Why?
like the Asian way?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It is true.
She's like, what? And like, I was like, she's like, so what are you going to do to help the world? And I was like, oh man, being put on the spot by my grandma right now. I was like, well, I mean, and I've already been doing movies for like 4 years by this point. Not movies, but videos or whatever. So I was pretty clearly set on that path, and she knew it. And like, so she really challenged me all of a sudden right then and there to be like, why are you making videos? Like, what are you going to do? Like, she's like, you can make videos, but what are you going to do to make up for the fact that you're not going out there and being a doctor or any other, engineer or any other person that's going to bring to society? Like, what are you going to bring to society doing what you're doing? And think about that. So that stuck with me. I think that's part of why we've done so many tutorials on our channel.
Mm-hmm.
You
want to help other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure I know you, and like most people probably listening to this, like you learned so much by just watching internet tutorials that you would never have learned. And my entire internet career is based off of mostly tutorials. Like I didn't even finish my college.
Dude, me neither.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously. We're the same. Not that you wouldn't finish, it's just we're the same person.
I also live in Georgia too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to do something artistic. I didn't quite know what that was.
Same.
But I picked up a guitar the first time when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I just fell in love with it. And I played guitar every day for years and years and years. I did bands in college and high school, and we were in a band. So I was always into that, and I always knew like that was I always enjoyed that. I always wanted to do it. And then kind of through that, you and Sam basically introduced me to the video world, and I thought, wow, this is fun too. So I guess that was the one thing, to go back to the original question, like what's changed and what's the same. That's been the same. I've always known that. And I didn't know if it was going to be a hobby of mine or an actual career of mine, but I always knew like I wouldn't have really been happy if I hadn't have done anything artistic. And then, having obviously the opportunity to have that as a career is like super rewarding. I think. So I've never asked myself the question of like what, like not in this particular, job, like what we're doing for the world, because I feel like it's there, and it is kind of a cheesy answer to say like, well, people watch your stuff or they listen to it or they whatever, and they, gives them something each day. But there's more, I think, to be said for that than I think we're really taking, because think about when you're in high school and how you were into certain bands or for me, it was bands because I was into music, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna define my personality by listening to this band, this band, and this band, okay? And anyone who listens to this band, this band, and this band, not friends with them, And like it was so culturally important to define myself through those things that I made it part of who I was. And obviously, as I got older, I realized how ridiculous that is and how like you can appreciate all kinds of different forms of art. But yeah, that was, in a way, I hope that some of the stuff we make at least like gives people a little bit of that.
Seems to.
I do it for a much more selfish reason.
What's that?
Well, like I was saying, like I used to want to be a detective and a soldier and a fighter pilot. I realized at a young age, I was like, you know what? I want to do so many different things, and there's no way for me to actually do any of those things and also do another thing. So I was like, you know what? Being an actor or making movies, you can do all of those things, but you can still sleep in your bed at night. And it was a way of me to be able to like tap into these things that I'm passionate about, I really like, and be able to do them, but also be able to do other things at the same time.
It's the ultimate
Dude,
hack.
that's
the ultimate
literally
life
really
hack.
true.
That's what my dad told me. He was like, "You don't have to join the military. You can, dude. You're running around, blowing up stuff in the field next door. Like that explosion went over the treetops.
Yeah.
Like you just do that.
Yeah. Well, that's also, he's probably trying to look out for your safety too.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, it's a way of, that's why I think being an actor is like one of the best jobs ever. And it's also, yeah, obviously it's one of the hardest because they have to be super talented. But to be able to live all these different lives, it's like being a multi-dimensional being and getting paid for it, which is cool.
That's very true.
Speaking of acting, by the way, guys, if you are at all interested in working with actors, you should consider today's sponsor. And now it's time for me to tell you about today's beautiful, wonderful sponsor, Storyblocks. Now, if you haven't been listening to the other episodes, Storyblocks is your one-stop shop for all your stock video needs. It's a members-only site that, once you have membership, gives you access to 4K studio-quality stock footage. It gives you B-roll, it gives you motion graphics, it gives you After Effects templates. They've got a whole bundle of different things. If you're a filmmaker or video editor and you're looking for the little snippets here and there to tie together your scenes and to tie together your piece, consider Storyblocks. It's a lot cheaper and easier than trying to buy stock footage as one-offs as you come across problems in your edits. It's a lot more efficient this way. And of course, while you are a member, you can download as much as you want. It's all royalty-free, so you don't have to worry about how you're using it or when you're using it or where you're using it. And of course, everything you use while you are a member remains in place and effective after or if you decide to cancel your membership. So they're one of the best in the business, guys. Definitely consider them. Go to storyblocks.com/corridorcast to get started. And like I said in the last episode, you won't be disappointed if you do. So again, that's storyblocks.com/corridorcast. Check them out. Now, back to the episode. And now that you know that, go ahead and get some of that stock footage for yourself and put it in front of or behind your next actor.
Just stock footage of another actor.
All right, so
Other actors behind
you haven't
actors.
answered the question yet of what's changed and what's the same. So let's hear it.
What's changed? What's the same? What? I was actually gonna like pose a discussion question of like what is something that did stick with you from high school and go forward. But all right, so
Let's
what's
do that
changed and what's
after
the
this.
same? Yeah. So there's a bit of a gamble that I took on my life when I was in. I don't mean like a revolver like with only one bullet in it kind of gamble. I mean more in the sense that like. So I started doing video work and like visual effects when I was 14 years old or so, maybe like slightly before that. And there's a sense of like, okay, this is super cool. If I stick with it now, by the time I hit college, I'll have 5 years under my belt already. Everybody else will be just starting, and I'll have 5 years. And it's worth mentioning that like, so in ninth grade, ninth grade. 1999 to 2000.
Matrix time, dude.
So I was
Yeah,
like
Matrix
8th
time.
and 9th grade.
Yeah. Ninth grade is when the first digital video cameras came out. The first iMovie came out. First Final Cut Pro came out. The first IMAX came out. Before that, like I was literally doing a video course where it was VHS to VHS editing, where you queue up the one VHS and you put it onto the other one. And then the very first digital video like programs became accessible to the person who wasn't in Hollywood. The very first NLEs, they called them, non-linear editors, came out when I was in 8th grade. Media 100 was the first one I used.
NLEs.
Yeah. And so to me, like I was actually really into special effects and pyrotechnics. I loved fire. I still love fire. I think it's very beautiful, and I miss the practical pyrotechnics that you had back in the day. Like the people that were doing Backdraft, like what they did with fire in that movie is like nobody else does that these days. It's a lost art. There's still some good pyrotechnics out there, but anyways, I digress. So there's this kind of like mental commitment where it's like, I really like this. And if I commit to it and I stick with it, like I'm going to have a leg up when I hit college. And if I stick with it then, I'm going to have a real leg up with it when I'm coming out of college. And if I still stick with it then I'm going to be able to crush it when I hit the job market. So it was kind of like at the expense of other things, I went home and I worked on videos. I did visual effects, I did tutorials, and I was very, very active in it. And that's actually around the same time that Sam and I started hanging out, and he kind of did the same thing. And so I was really lucky that I had another guy that committed to it like I did. So, going once again, when we hit college, boom, he and I were at the top of our game. There was no one else doing visual effects like we were doing. And there's no one else that even really knew how to process digital video to the extent that we were processing it to make it look better than it was. Because these were, by today's standards, really junky cameras. And then coming out of college, we got a production gig directing a movie. It was only like a $40,000 budget, but we got that because we knew how to make this work. And there's no one else like us coming out of college at that time that could do that kind of stuff. So this gambit paid off in that, it got me from being in rural Minnesota, because for all intents and purposes, Stillwater's kind of rural still, out to Los Angeles. And I was able to make that jump from being some guy in the Midwest to being here in the city, like making movies and meeting people in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. And it required that, kind of jumping in with both feet when I was 14 years old. But from then to now, what I've kind of realized is that, like, just like you with glamorizing your jet fighters, like glamorizing film directors, it's not what I thought it was when I was 14 years old, But something odd happened in that process is that because I was just doing it anyways, I kind of ended up making what I wanted it to be in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like that glamorized vision I had of directing films, I wasn't getting that from, quote unquote Hollywood, but I was getting it just doing it myself and doing it the way I wanted to do it. And so, here I am now. And like the question I'm asking myself now is like, do I want to make movies? Like here I am having run a YouTube channel now for like 9 years. I haven't really made any movies. I mean, Sync, Rush, like those are almost movies, but not really movies, But what we're doing now is like, in a way, I think so much more fulfilling. A film would be really cool, but the film would have to be made like a movie. Like a movie would be made in like the mid 90s, which is to say like a lot of creative freedom, a lot of trust, some really cool experiments, and really cool people around you. And just when I see movies these days, the business has become so confined and so strict that idea of enjoying your art is gone. Like it's completely gone. Unless you're shooting something really small budget where the money doesn't matter that much, like that. No one's going to let you have fun on a set that's a $200 million set. Like every single second of the day is budgeted and accounted for, and you are just there to be the lead foreman on a construction job building that movie. And that's like the opposite of what I want to do. So yeah, like to answer your question, like I'm really happy making the art I'm making now. I'm even more happy that my life is not the same thing every day. And to me, it's almost the most important thing. I get to have experiences. The same thing like you were saying, D. Like, we're not actors per se, but we're getting all the benefits without the BS.
We get to do what we want to do and do it on our own accord. And we get to decide what that is.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I think
and that's the American dream.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think that we probably will end up making, I don't know if they'll be called movies or if they'll be distributed like movies. I think we'll probably end up doing some long form narrative stuff more into the future. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be an artistic endeavor and not a construction project.
Right.
And I'm having so much fun like doing what we're doing right now that I'm not even worried about it. You know, I'm just like, what's the next cool little thing that we can make here? What's the next, like, how can we blow people's minds on another video? How can we turn this thing that's really what is really like the stuff that you guys have been doing with effects lately? It's really this high concept art form, but the fun of it is turning it around and making it this kind of ridiculous form of entertainment at the same time. And like that, no one's doing that.
Well, we're in that weird position where, like, we were talking about this earlier today, where like, we ended up in YouTube because we were aiming for movies and missed. There's not really anyone else in YouTube that did that. Like, I mean, there's a couple, but most of those channels are gone by this point. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like everyone at this table, we were all aiming for movies, and then we missed, and we landed on YouTube.
Yep.
But what it's led to now is that we have this skill set that's very informed by Hollywood and Hollywood movies and, you know, traditional film. And we're the ones who have brought that skill set over to YouTube. And now we're getting to show people, like, understanding how YouTube works and being able to present a story on YouTube and being able to be a personality in front of the camera and being able to express it verbally to everybody. We're able to do all that with the YouTube sensibilities and the YouTube skill set, but we're also then able to bring all this knowledge and experience from this other world over. And I can't really point to, like, big Hollywood movies that I did effects on. I did effects on Brittany Murphy's last movie before she died. But, you know, that was it. That was like my last gig, and that was like 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like what you're saying, where you don't really know where you're gonna land, but early on you're like, if I do this and I really work hard at it, I'm gonna excel at the next thing. And, you know, as filmmakers, making films is a lot more challenging than making YouTube videos. So we trained ourselves to make films so that when we came to YouTube, we're like, oh, this is easy. And like, oh, wait, that's it? So like, we were so far ahead of the game in terms of like knowing what looks good, what sounds good, how to tell a story, what are good characters, like what's important for a good video. And that's what clearly, you know, led us to being successful, like in a big way, being like, okay, like having that experience and having those skill sets that most people didn't have. Like most people on YouTube were like, here's a web camera, I'm gonna talk into it, and like that was it. So that's kind of I think really important, and actually kind of segues me into a question I had for you guys. When you guys are young, and let's say if you could go back into high school and meet your high school self, what would you tell that person that isn't financial advice?
So no stock numbers.
No stock numbers. No, not what to invest in. But what would you tell that person? And at the same time, what do you think that person would say, or how do you think that person would feel if they could look into the future? Let's say you're like 15 and they look at you now. Do you think you would ever have seen yourself doing what you're doing? And yeah, how does that make you feel? I think about this a lot.
Clint, you want to go first?
You can answer the second question first, that easier question.
Okay, so
Yeah, like, well,
what would I tell myself, and then what would myself say?
yeah, like, what do you think yourself would be like? Like, imagine if your 15-year-old self come into the future and see you now. Like, what do you think he would say to you, and then vice versa?
Oh, man, he'd probably look at the one wheel and be like, "Sweet, dude."
Probably.
Like it's that one glimpse of time when you're on fire. He's like, "Oh my god!"
Stay away from fire forever. Yeah.
Jeez, man, I don't know. Like, I am basically the same person I was when I was in high school, just a little smarter and read a few more books, I guess, and you know, I followed the exact path that I wanted to do when I was in high school, which was create really cool stuff. I still really want to do a movie, that's for sure. Definitely want to do a movie. Because going back to being challenged, I want to be challenged constantly. And like you said, movies a big challenge. That's something that I would have a lot of fun doing. But man,
Yeah, what would you say to yourself as a kid?
Man,
If there is something, there might not be anything. You might just be like, just keep doing what you're doing, kid. You'll make it eventually.
man, dude. Like, I don't know. Like,
It's not an easy question.
it's not, dude.
It's not.
Maybe research taxes a little bit.
No financial questions.
Just a tiny bit of research.
No
taxes.
financial.
No, but that's not like
This isn't like
That's
so
not
he
real.
can be rich. It's so that he
Could be-
understands that taxes are a thing.
Dude, I like taxes have brought me so much pain and anguish, man. Like I didn't know
That's a good thing.
I didn't know
Yeah.
how to do them, and I was 1099 getting like
I remember that.
production like budgets for shorts for games, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh yeah.
you made all this money, what? It's like, no, I didn't make that money.
Yeah.
That was just what
That
that
was
was
the
the
production
budget for the budget. And like I didn't know that you had to write stuff off. I didn't know what you could write off. I didn't know
Yeah,
any of that
I
stuff. And
remember
I've
that.
been like, dude, I was on the phone with the tax guy today, dealing with crap, dude.
Still today.
Yeah, still today, this very day, man. And it's just like the IRS hits me up like, yo, you owe more money because you under whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh well, I've never gotten money back.
Good. That's a good tip for all the young listeners.
Dude, like taxes.
Look into
man.
taxes.
And I probably would have like when I came out here, I did martial arts for like 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I came out here and I picked up free running,
Mm-hmm.
and then I like snapped my ankle.
I remember that. So you'd be like, hey, learn taxes. Don't learn free running.
Like free running is cool
Yeah.
and all, and then I realized that doing a backflip is not worth it. Like
oh, totally not.
like get into yoga and keep doing martial arts. Like those are probably
Mhm.
what I would have told myself.
Hmm.
But yeah, as far as the
Those
creative,
are
and,
good. Don't do backflips. Yeah,
they're just not needed, man.
it's not worth it. Definitely not.
Oh my god, dude. Another thing that I would have told myself. So stupid. Another thing I would have told myself, I love video games and I love a challenging video game. Like you were talking about, the
Mhm.
more effort you put into the video game, the harder it is, the better it gets. Mario Kart. I would have learned how to play that game with input lag. So I would have been able to
Oh yes.
sweep the competition. When I was already sweeping the competition.
Tell the story from the beginning.
I'll be brief.
Mhm.
Okay, so Disney XD. Disney was putting on a sweet happening Mario Kart tournament at the YouTube space. I filled Jimmy Wong's shoes. He was like, Clint, take my place. I'm Jimmy Wong. What do we call Jimmy? He was like, he's so rich, just traveling. He's like,
Oh yeah. What do we used to call him? Dang.
Rich Brian.
No. Oh, well, I'll think of it. I'll
yeah,
think
it was
of
like,
Yeah, keep
Jim,
telling
like
the story.
of course, Jimmy's off like doing something like super fancy
Yeah,
and
Mr.
crazy.
Oh yeah, Mr. Two cars and one jet ski.
Dude,
Because
Two
he won
cars,
Price is
one jet
Right.
ski. Jimmy Wong.
yeah, he doesn't have a wish list. He only has a shopping cart.
Yeah. No wish list, only straight to shopping cart. Jimmy Wong, bro. Dude, that was so funny. He gets so mad sometimes when we say
Oh,
that.
dude,
It
that's
was
so funny.
So funny, dude.
So yeah, Jimmy's off doing two cars and a jet ski, and like he's like, Clint, fill my shoes at this Mario Kart tournament. You're the only one. Like, dude, you have to take it. Because me and Jimmy would go neck to
Mhm.
neck
Yeah.
on Mario Kart, dude, for years. And so yeah, I went to the YouTube space, put on this whole thing, and Jimmy was like, dude, there's a $20,000 $20,000 grand prize for the first place. And I was like, Jimmy, I got it. I'm gonna win. Like, I got it, 100%, dude. I will not let you down. And so I go there, just like, throw anything at me, dude. We're playing with Wiimotes, not a problem. Like, easy, dude, easy. I'll adapt. 200cc. I trained for that. Knocked it out. Friggin' 3 stars. Everything. Prelims, crushed it.
Which console? Wii?
It was the Wii, yeah, it was the Wii. The Wii U. And then it gets to the point where like we're in the green room and they're I'm skipping ahead. Right, so preliminaries, crush the preliminaries.
Uh-huh.
And then next up is
How bad did you crush the preliminaries?
oh dude, it was a sweep, dude. It was like all this
You, like,
dirt was on the
lap them?
ground and I had this mop and I was just mopping it up, dude. Yeah, it was bad. I lapped some people for sure.
Oh.
Jeez.
It was like a bunch of like influencers, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So then it comes time for the semifinals, and during the semifinals, this like a plague, like a virus, dude. It rolls in, and it gets worse and worse. This input lag, this input delay. Like when I hit
TV.
right, 2 seconds later, my cart goes right, and I'm like, this is how I'm gonna lose this match. Like I had it.
How did that happen?
like they were hooked because they were like live streaming it, right? So they were hooking it in through one thing, hooking it in through another, hooking it up to the receiver, to the TV, like back finally to my TV up on the stage with like a little tiny thing, and I'm just like racing like that. Despite the input lag, I managed to get through the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, dude, I'm like, you guys got to fix this. This is uncalled for. So they're like, all right, look, the finals are in 2 hours. We're going to work on this. Guys, go to the green room, have some snacks, chill. We're going to take care of this. Everyone's going to start coming here in about 30 minutes. There's a live crowd, like legit. So I go back into the green room and I'm like, everyone, let's go right now. Everyone's training.
Yeah.
Dude, first place. They were shaking my hand. They said, good game, dude. You got it. You got it, man. Like, man. And I was feeling good. I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. Come back. They're like, we fixed the input lag. Yes. Fix the input lag. Fantastic. The freaking crowd is all in. There's like 200 people. Everyone's like cheering, and there's like sweeping cameras and everything, and like confetti and crap and food on this side, skewers and dips and everything over here.
Clint's like, this will be a quick story. All the finest dip and chips over here.
I think they had what was that Worcester sauce.
So there's no problem, dude. So I go up, and right before, like I go up on stage, get the remote, and I get the headset. And right before the match starts, this tech comes up, and he's like shaking. He's got freaking pit sweats, and he's like, "Guys, it's back." And I'm like, "Oh my god, dude! Oh my god! Of course, it's back."
Was it back for everyone, or
It's
just
back for
you?
everybody, dude. It's back for everybody. Okay. Freaking lost.
Wait, so what I'm curious about, how did you, if you were beating everybody without input lag and then everyone had input lag, how did you lose?
Yeah, like
I don't
how are
understand.
you at a disadvantage?
You think someone was like being like a Mario Kart shark and was like, oh, I'm losing,
I don't
and they
think
actually
so.
trained
No,
for input lag?
No, I just like, you can ask Eli. When I start to slip, dude, it ggets bad. Like,
Tilt real hard.
I tilt super hard. Like, it goes. I'm like, oh, made a mistake. Like, oh, made a mistake, and it's done. Then it's done. And it's just like,
just Ronda Rousey
I lost.
style.
I lost
That's really rough.
$20,000.
How did it play out?
Well, I complained. I was like,
No, I mean like the last lap.
the last lap, dude. Freaking Moo Moo Meadows.
Like, how close were you?
I don't know.
How what place did you get?
I don't know. I got second place.
Oh,
I got second place.
okay, yeah, that sucks.
So yeah, first place $20,000. Second place $0.
Interesting.
So yeah, I complained and got like $1,500, and then
They gave you $1,500 for complaining?
second and third place got $1,500.
Oh, so it didn't get $0.
No, but dude, I could have got $20K. Like,
Felt like $0. It felt like $0 was actually
it was
$1,500.
like a consolation prize. Like,
Yeah.
They actually gave me.
At least you got a
someone
consolation
gave
prize,
me
though.
$1,500 for playing a video
That's
game.
pretty. Yeah, that's
No
like
one-
a
no
very
one-
small brand deal.
who else has won $20,000 for playing Mario Kart? I could have been the only guy. I could have been the guy, dude.
You could have been. Who won?
That's true.
Some freaking dude. I don't
Maybe
know.
we should have another tournament and offer $20,000.01.
Okay, here's the thing. If anyone can beat me Mario Kart, well, there's probably some people in Japan. I'm ready for a challenge. That's all I'm saying.
That's pretty rough, man. I had
I'm
a
still salty
similar
about that.
situation, but
So I would have. That's what I would have.
That's you. Is that the guy who beat you?
No, that's Johnny Bosworth.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
Johnny.
That's Johnny.
Bosworth.
He challenged me to a match. I beat him all 4 times. He had. I was like, look, if you beat me in one of these matches, I will do something really embarrassing. Basically, like walk across VidCon and like walk across like the main center of VidCon, going like, and I was like, but if I beat you all 4 times, you have to do that. Like
Did he
an
do it?
unbroken. Yeah, he did it. It was
Oh
in the
my
video.
god, that's so rough. How could you do that to Johnny Bosworth, man?
He was goofing, dude. We were all goofing.
That's-
it was a good
that's-
time.
Johnny
really
Bones Boz.
Yeah,
Intense,
man, good
man.
times. So yeah, that's what I would have told myself.
All
is-
right.
Wow. That
Wow.
was-
Sorry for the segue. That was a
Nico, I think you have to answer the same question real quick.
That's
before.
Oh man, I'm just right here in Clint's shadow.
What would
after
you
that
tell
amazing story.
yourself? What would you tell yourself? You don't have to take 15 minutes and tell a whole story about Disney XD
So one
and about
time
2 cars, 1 jet
we
ski.
were having a
Jimmy Wong.
Yeah, man.
so I'm just still riding high on Clint's story about Mario Kart.
My goal is to make my wish list my shopping cart. For sure. That's my goal.
That's what you tell yourself.
That's my goal, is to be able to do that.
I'm glad you remembered his
Of
nicknames.
course I remember that.
I was like, why do we? I know we called him something.
Well, you called him 2 cars and jet ski because he won that on
Two
The Price
cars,
is
one jet
Right,
ski.
right?
No, 'cause he won an extra
make
car.
fun of him because he already had a car.
No, he had so many cars. He had
Yeah.
to, like, he was getting taxed on so many
No,
cars.
he already
Wasn't
had
it?
his own car, and
Yeah.
then he won on Price is Right. He won a car and a jet ski. So we're like, yo, you're so rich. You have 2 cars and a jet ski. So we'll be like, dude, this guy's so rich, man. Like, God, and he'd get really mad about it.
Where did he keep that jet ski? Because he lives in like downtown
He
Los
kept
Angeles.
it in the rocket jump studios.
Dude,
That's right.
Yeah, he had it where all the merch was held.
he's so rich, it was
Yeah.
a burden.
Yeah.
He was burdened by how much he had. dude.
Yeah.
Like, that was the funniest part, dude.
Oh man, so
So
good.
Wow.
Those are good times.
I know.
I guess if I were to go to talk to high school Niko, I'd say you're on the right path. You're all set. It's like the initial variables that I came up with for like life for myself worked out. Keep on them. It's good. Basically everything I wanted to do in high school, I've done. So I'm good. And I think if high school me saw me now, he'd be like, dude, you got a VR headset?
What's VR like? What's
Yeah.
having a wife like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna play video games?
You got a one
You have a wife that you play video games with? That's insane.
Well, sorry, young Niko. She only plays Mario Kart with me.
Yeah.
But it's better than nothing,
It's
all
better
right?
than nothing.
Do you,
It's
do you
true.
destroy her in Mario Kart?
No, because then she wouldn't play Mario Kart with me
Exactly.
anymore.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
I'd just be mad having to hold myself back. I'd be like, can't do this.
Well, that's something you learn when you get married. This is true. Those are marriage lessons.
Do you and Kim play Mario Kart together?
No.
Well, there you have
No.
it.
He's like, I would crush her soul.
Yeah. How about you, Jake?
Obliterator.
Man, I've been thinking about this since you brought it up, so I probably have a better answer because I've had more time to think about it. I'd tell myself, I'd say, Jake, young man, you little shit, don't be afraid of yourself is probably what I'd tell myself, because there was so much, like, with all this, I was doing all this thinking, I was really good at track. Obviously that got me through college and stuff, and that was great. That set me up for a lifetime of just establishing a work ethic and like
You're going back for the Hall of Fame induction.
I am. Yeah, I'm going back in September for the St. Croix Valley Athletic Association Hall of Fame induction.
Wow.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They inducted my brother a few years ago, and now they get me. So I'm always second when it comes to that stuff, which is no surprise, but I'm honored to do it. And so I'd say, hey, keep doing track. That's great. It set me up for, and this is what I'm going to say in the acceptance speech, but basically it set me up for a lifetime of not being afraid of just doing the work to get something. Because distance running, oh my God, it's the worst. But I still do it today. I still do it for training. I still do it for health. But what it does is it just like hardens in your mind, like this ability to be like, no, I'm just going to gut through, I'm just like, this needs to get done. I need to grind it out. I need to do it.
Absolutely. Dude, it gave you discipline, man.
Right.
that
Exactly.
perseverance.
It gives you discipline. And without that, I don't know what I would be. I'd probably be like riding with the Mongols or something. That's probably what I would be doing. I'm not even kidding. And then also I'd tell myself, hey, don't be afraid of yourself. You like in high school, there's all these things about, who you hang out with and what you do and how these things are going to define you one day. And it's like, all that's bullshit. Like, just be yourself and learn the things that you find inspirational and go after them and utilize that work ethic that you're learning from sport to apply to the rest of your life, and you'll be fine. And it took me about until college to figure that out, but I'm glad I figured it out then. Yeah.
Dude, that's so important, man. Just hard work, discipline, and persistence.
Well, that's what somebody was on Joe Rogan talking about that the other day, and about what's his name, Jocko Wolnick or something. He's an ex-military guy, and his whole philosophy is discipline equals freedom.
I
The 4 a.m. guy?
Yeah, he's the 4 a.m.
The
guy.
beach? I
Yeah.
earned myself that sunset, that sunrise.
He's like way too intense about it, but like the point that he was making, the point that Rogan was making was like, this is freeing to this guy because he doesn't need to worry about what he's going to be doing at 4 a.m. the next day. He just knows he's going to be doing his workout or whatever, whatever his version of that discipline is.
Hmm.
And so sometimes I take on that a little bit too. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to do this because I got to do it. And
It's so good, dude. Such a good characteristic to have. It's like just discipline, man. So good.
Yeah.
all right. Well,
D?
that was a good.
did you answer that, D?
Oh yeah, D posed it, but he didn't.
Yeah.
I'll make it quick because this is already going along.
It's cool.
Well, first of all, if my 15-year-old self could flash forward and see myself getting paid to play video games and airsoft with my friends and getting to film movies and riding motorcycles and living in Los Angeles and going to parties and all this stuff, he'd be like, holy shit, this is awesome. But I will say that a lot of it has to do with, if I could go back and talk to myself and say something, because like he'd be all stoked, he'd be, oh man, everything looks great, like that looks super fun, and you're doing everything that I love. And that while that is true, I think it's really, really important to understand that the skills you learn, like Niko was saying, early on in life, they will really, really impact what you do in the future. Not just on like how passionate you are about it, but like just the experience and how much you have done it and how good you are at it will affect your later life tremendously. So really focusing on something and knowing early on what you want to do is really important. Even if that's not where you end up, having a goal and something to focus on, like I want to do filmmaking, and then, going for that, even if you don't end up there, that path will lead you to a way of finding out what you really do want to do, what will really make you happy. Because I know a lot of people struggle with, they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to be. And I think figuring that out early is really key, because as you get older, it gets a lot harder to do. So finding something you're really passionate about and really working hard at it. And, eventually, if you're smart and you have a little bit of luck on your side, you'll be able to turn that into a career and into a way of making a living. And that, my friends, is the American dream.
Yeah.
And also, if you are one of those people out there who doesn't know what you want to do, and with each passing day, Dee's advice becomes more and more real in your head and more mounting, and you realize with each passing day, the more you don't know what you want to do, it detriments you another day into the future. Also, consider this. You may become passionate about what you're currently doing. And there are a lot of people out there, and myself included. Like I have become a lot more passionate for this as the more and more that I've done it. I obviously loved it when we first started out, and it was great. It was a totally different time. There's a lot of people out there that are very successful at whatever it is that they do, and they've found over time that they've become passionate about that and sort of learned to love it rather than loved it and then gotten into it.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're good at something, you're gonna enjoy it. If you're better than 98% of the population at something, you're gonna love doing it. It's like when you play a video game. If you're really good at it, you're gonna have a good time. If you suck at it, you're probably not gonna have a very good time. Same thing with your career. Like if you're crushing it, like same thing, like you're saying, like you've been doing this for a long time and you found a love for it. It's probably because you've gotten a lot better at it and you feel better about doing it. You know you're doing a good job, and that is rewarding in itself.
Yeah.
And that definitely applies to careers. And just work hard and be good at what you are. Just if you're gonna do something, be the top percentile of the people who do that thing.
Yeah.
That's about it.
That was a good podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about this instead of the news.
World War III
for the day.
Yeah, World War III.
But next time we might talk about the news again, so don't get any crazy ideas thinking that we're just going to be spewing our hearts to you guys every time we come on this show.
Yeah. And little shout out to everybody listening to this podcast and watching this on YouTube. On one channel, we have a show that gets 2 million views, and here it is, just us and you, a couple thousand listeners, viewers.
Yep.
It's nice.
About 40,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, across YouTube and the audio only. Yeah.
It's nice having, like, a close knit community that we can talk to. So thank you for listening. And
we do read the comments.
Yes, we do. Actually, I really enjoy reading the comments. I keep looking for somebody to call me out for like a dumb philosophy on something.
You're ready. They're like, hey.
Yeah, but it hasn't happened actually. It's been really cool. Like people come back with like great responses and like cool discussion points and great questions, and like it's just really neat seeing how many other fascinating and interesting people are out there and that they listen to us and contribute back. It makes it a conversation. So thanks everybody. I appreciate it.
Till next time.
So long.
See you guys.